Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Scott Leese here with my good friend and co host of the What's Your Story podcast, Mike Lindstrom. We are stoked to announce the launch of the What's Your Story podcast, along with our YouTube channel and Instagram channel and TikTok channel. And you'll be able to find every episode of What's Your Story on Spotify and Apple and everywhere else you can listen to podcasts. Again, I'm Scott Leese. I spent the better part of the last 20 years or so building and scaling sales orgs across B2B and in tech. I've opened offices in the Bay Area, in Austin, Texas, in Los Angeles, in New York City, all over the place. The last 6 years, I've been running my own sales and go to market consulting firm where I serve as a fractional CRO and we do fractional RevOps work as well with startups from all around the world in every category, every type of sales cycle you can think of. And Mike, tell everybody a little bit about you, man.
Man, there's so much to tell, but we got to get into the abbreviated version of our story, this story here, because you'll hear more in the podcast. But man, when I got out of law school in 1997, my first real job working for Tony Robbins, as many of you know, as a field sales rep consultant and then a coach building his coaching program in 1999, 2000. Did that for a few years and then got swept up in .coms like a lot of people like you, my man. And that's how you and I met. So it's been 20 years in the making since you and I got together in that .com up in Northern California. And it was more of a trainee, trainer, mentor, mentee role. And now it's like partnership, podcast, co-host. We have these new titles as we fast forward. Our kids are, our lives have changed massively, but it was so neat taking my coaching practice over the last 15 to 20 years and having these kind of relationships with people I've coached or trained in the past, like yourself, and be able to collaborate. And you've always made those phone calls over the years saying, hey, what would you do in this situation? Or, hey, well, I'm working on this. What do you think? So we've always had these banters back and forth, but it wasn't really until this year we said, hey, let's take your background, my background, let's stick them together, our audiences, our friendships, and let's make this happen.
Yeah, it's been a fun process for sure. For those of you who don't know my background or my story, I spent the early part of my 20s fighting for my life in the hospital and went through 9 surgeries and have dealt with a lot of stuff, overcame addiction. And my first job when I got out of my health struggle was an inside sales role at this little tech startup in the Bay Area. And Mike is a few years older than me, not much, but a few years older than me. And he was a sales trainer for this company. And he was the first person in my sales career that sort of talked in such a way that just resonated with me. And I would, I was like a note taker, and Mike would be talking, and I'm scribbling notes all over the place and learning as much I can and kind of soaking it up. And just stayed in touch over the years. Long after that job came and went, and we both went our separate ways. But we just sort of became friends, and Mike was always kind of my first mentor, I'd say, and I'd ask him questions about sales leadership or when I first started doing coaching or consulting. I remember one time, telling Mike what I was charging people, and he sort of yelled at me and was like, "Dude, you're like 5 or 10x underpriced, man. What are you doing?" So lessons like that have stuck with me over the years. And in the last few years in particular, there's been a little bit of conversation about what can we do together? What can we build? Is it a event? Is it a course of some sort? What kind of business can we create? And, I've been running my own podcast in B2B tech called the Serpent Sales Podcast for years, but it's not so much of a lifestyle type podcast. It doesn't incorporate all the things about our lives as human beings, as men, as parents, as business owners. And it doesn't talk about how we got to where we are now. And that podcast was very niche and very kind of tech focused. And the ideas that Mike and I have kicked around have centered on we want to understand people and where they come from and what they've been through that shaped who they are and how they've achieved what they've achieved. And we want to pull people from all different disciplines, all walks of life, from all over the world. And that's kind of how all of this stuff started and kind of motivated us to pull this off. Right, Mike?
Yeah, I kind of attribute it to a flat tire, to be honest. When I was in Austin, Texas over the summertime visiting some mutual friends, Scott was nice enough to offer to drive me completely out of route to the place I was staying. And we got a little bit of a flat tire, and we started talking more in depth because we had more time together waiting for AAA to show up. And we just kind of came to that point. And like, we're kind of looking at each other, we're like, why don't we do this? And boom, it was born. It was already in our heads. We'd been bantering about things, courses, masterminds, stuff that we'll do in, 26 and beyond, which is on our slate. But we thought the easiest starting point would be like this because of virtual world, because of our connections with tech, people on our teams, editors. This is a no-brainer to be able to get together, put our voices together, and have podcasts kind of be our initial project, but our squawk box to not only, share the stories of our friends and our clients. I mean, we have 45 years. I was thinking about this last night, 45 plus years of combined experience of friendships and networks that we want to bring into these podcasts. I'm blessed that we got that flat tire, my man, and it came to this point where we have now worked since that moment to record, to put this in motion, to build everything we do. And so going live here in the next week and beyond is so exciting to me.
Yeah, let's tell everybody about that a little bit. We're launching about 5 days from now or so, first week of October. This is an in-person, in-studio podcast. Maybe we'll sprinkle a couple Zoom calls like this where it's just Mike and I riffing. But in general, the vision for the podcast is in-person, live, in studio. We got a great setup. Mike lives out in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm in Austin, Texas. So I flew out to Scottsdale recently and we ripped through 9 episodes in 2 days, live in person. We were there for probably at least 12 hours or so altogether recording. Had some help from some of Mike's connections and friends down there. And the idea is, we're going to try to release one of these episodes a week or so. And we've got some great clips that we'll tease out across all of our channels. And obviously, everybody will have access to the full episodes as well. And some of the guests that we have, man, they have some powerful stories. They've had some incredible successes. We're talking about former NHL player, NFL player, MLB player, newscaster in the Arizona area, the cannabis queen of Arizona, some tech salespeople and big names on other social platforms like LinkedIn and so forth. And that's just the people we've interviewed so far, Mike. That is not even talking about who's on deck.
Yeah, we had a big list. We had a big list. That's one thing. I didn't realize the toughest part of our job was going to be like who's on first, who's on second, who should go. So we're trying to time it up with topical things too. It's not just what we would want or who was better than the other because they're all equally amazing. It's just trying to figure out who these amazing guests and their stories, what would make sense given the time of year. If we're launching these once a week, which is our goal, and we're going to be consistent with that. Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, and Scott and I have talked about this. 90% of people who start podcasts, they don't really get past episode 10. We got 9, 10 in the can right out of the gate. So we already put ourselves in the top 10% of people, and we're doing it live in studio when we do it. They're being, recorded and dropped. So there's all these elements that we're proud of that we want to bring that quality of not just the guest, the questions, what's your story, and the answers we're doing, but the way in which we're doing it. The studio's amazing, the cover art, everything that we built to this point, I'm really proud of. And I'm just excited for next week, the first week of October. But the one thing I want to throw in, because you do try to get boxed in the podcast world. What are you, news? Are you entertainment? Are you personal development? And even when you look at the drop downs, whether it's Spotify, Apple, YouTube, we don't fit into one single box. So I want to be clear on that. When you come into an episode, don't judge, be curious. Be curious about, well, I'm not really into hockey, or I'm not a cannabis person, or I'm not a tech guy. Guess what? Every single person has an amazing story, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a mother, whether you're a former athlete, you're overcoming something in your life. I mean, I can think of all the possible top challenge that people face in personal development because that's my background. These people are bringing it with their authenticity. So when you're looking at the lineup in advance, you see the next speaker coming in or guest coming in and think, you know what, there's got to be a story in here or else Mike and Scott wouldn't have brought them on. So be curious about that and tune in no matter what, because you will be inspired. I promise you.
Yeah, make sure you subscribe to our podcast on whatever your favorite kind of podcast consumption device is, and all of our social channels as well. Like and subscribe, help us out, give us a boost, share it around to other people who might enjoy the topics that we're kicking around and the style of the show. And we're open to feedback as well. We're very engaged with our networks already that exist, and we'll continue to be very engaged with people who pay attention to the show and have questions or comments or suggestions or guests maybe that they want to recommend. We will respond. No automation, no AI, no bot. A real human being, either Mike or I, will respond. So we're really excited about this. We hope you are too. We hope you'll join us for the journey. And the name of the show, once again, is What's Your Story? And you can find us on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and everywhere on social and on Spotify and soon to be on Apple. Be releasing sometime in the next couple weeks. The first episode is next week, October.
We have the 8th, Dave Scatcherd, former NHL great. Dave Scatcherd is an amazing guy, author. He's in the motivational world as well. So his story is not just inspirational. He'll tell you some really cool behind the scenes stuff for those sports fans out there and what he had to overcome. But he got really deep with us on that couch that day, man. Very emotional. Both practically you and I were in tears listening to him like tell a story of how he faced some pretty tough things when he left the NHL. And I'll leave you with that. You got to tune in to see it.
All right. We'll see you all soon. Thanks, Mike.
Take care. Look forward to it.
All right.